Condemned: Criminal Origins is a first-person horror action clobbering the homeless simulator developed by Monolith Productions and released in 2005. The game stars a man named Ethan Thomas, a skilled and seemingly paranormally gifted FBI investigator on the hunt for a serial killer known as the Matchmaker. The story will take Ethan through the dark and dirty underbelly of the fictional Metro City. Ethan will have to use his keen investigative instincts to hunt down the twisted serial killer and downright clobber every homeless person he sees on the way. The game's lead writer, Frank Rook, would cite such media as Jacob's Ladder, Saw, Silence of the Lambs, Seven, 28 Days Later, and The X-Files as the biggest influences for the whole vibe that the game would be going for. Wait a minute, one of these things ain't exactly like the other one of these things. I wonder what. During development, Monolith carried out extensive research on real-world serial killers in order to better understand their psychology. The development team even hired surveyors in order to map out abandoned tunnels, warehouses, and other fentanyl-rich environments throughout Seattle, where the fictional Metro City is loosely based, in order to give a template for the design team to work off. And goddamn it worked, because this game is beautiful. Beautiful in a everything around me looks like it's gonna give me tetanus or HIV if I touch it kind of way. Sounds like they were putting a lot of work into making a real dark, gritty, psychological, investigative crime thriller with visceral and absolutely devastating close quarters combat, investigative elements. Well, I mean 1 out of 3 ain't too bad. If we're being generous, we can say 1 1/2, so half, I guess. A bit more research, and by that I mean reading a little lower on the Wikipedia page, says that in early stages of the game's development it was going to be called The Dark, and would have players follow a character named Agent Cross, who would possess much of the same instincts and sixth sense as Ethan, but would also be able to use a variety of magic spells. And if the main character of a dark, gritty, psychological horror game, where the player is tasked with investigating and pursuing serial killers, using magic sounds kind of stupid, oh boy, you have no clue how bad things are gonna get. You poor, ignorant child, if only you knew where this was gonna go. Editor's note, I just want to apologize for calling you an ignorant child. I don't know who you are or what you're going through. I didn't mean it. It's just when I talk about this game, you're gonna understand why. You're not a dumb baby. I need you to prepare for where this is gonna go, because it's gonna go down. The game begins with, well, it begins really similar to Fear, actually. We take control of Agent Thomas on his way to investigate the newest crime scene left by the Matchmaker. We walk through this absolutely gorgeously decrepit building. God, this image with the lights coming in through the windows and the shadows, and good God, does this game make a strong first impression. We get to the crime scene and press buttons for Ethan to take out his various doodads and snap pictures and all that garbage. The whole investigative element is pretty on rails until we find out that
he's right above us.
The Matchmaker is still in the building, and in fact, he was the manager the entire time. Why the fuck did I write that? So Ethan and the two detectives decide that the best course of action is to split up, or more correctly, the detectives leave the schlubby FBI asshole all to himself and to go wrestle the homeless or whatever, while they go, I don't know, extort a labor union, whatever it is they do. We're informed by Rosa, the nice lady who lives in the FBI office, that the locals are all fucked up and absolutely hyped on some new drug or something. But of course, we know why our unhoused neighbors are like this way. Classism. We make our way through the building and get duped by the old exploding power box trick and lose our weapon. Personally, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Aside from being exceptionally gifted for investigation, Ethan also seems to have rigorous training and excessive force. And half these homeless dudes just tank 45s like I'm spitting at them, so frankly I'm more than fine just swinging whatever blunt objects I can find. We continue up the building, clobbering as we go, until we get caught by the even older man hiding behind the door trick. I mean, isn't Ethan supposed to be some sort of super investigator with crime-solving sixth sense? How does he get duped by a guy behind a door? Isn't like checking your corners CQB 101? Wait a minute, didn't the same thing happen in Fear?
Flexes are totally off the charts.
The bad man shoots the two detectives, who somehow have an even worse reaction time than Super Agent over here, and throws Ethan out the window, which is a pretty bold move, considering the guy isn't looking to kill Ethan just yet. So just casually chucking him out a 6-story window, assuming he's going to walk away. I mean, I know everybody in this universe is built like a linebacker, but damn. So Ethan wakes up in his apartment with an old man watching him. The old man is...
My name is Malcolm Van Horn.
Get used to that. He really likes introducing himself like that, and he does it a lot. He informs Ethan that he is now a wanted man, with the FBI looking to arrest him for the death of the two detectives from earlier. Alright, let's pause here for a moment. This is the first real sign of things being kinda suspect with the game's story. With the game's writing. So, Ethan is just woken up, and he's told by some rando, who we're just meeting, that he is now a wanted man and has to drop his entire life and go on the run from the FBI. Ethan, who is one of the FBI's top agents, a man with a literal sixth sense for solving crime, is just immediately believed to have murdered these two detectives in cold blood. And not only does Ethan straight up believe this guy, but he's right? This is the first inkling that the game's story is gonna ask a lot of you. It's gonna ask you to just not ask questions and run with a lot of shit. And boy, is it ever gonna do that. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So we're in the subway tunnels. Rosa is still on our side. And we basically just do a lot of what we did the last level. And clobber our way through a horde of fentanyl aficionados and the mentally unwell. I've never really liked the next couple of levels. It's weird. I mean, Condemned starts off really strong in this like creepy, decrepit building. Like, you got tweakers like crawling out of the walls and shit. It's a fantastic start. And the game immediately follows that up with a subway level, followed by a sewer, and then back to a subway. And all that back to back just feels like it drags on. Like, I know these are 3 levels, but it feels so much longer. The only real standout in any of these levels is the absolute size of some of these brawls. Like, it's like a homeless battle royale out here. Oh, and these downright ghastly-looking tweaker women. God damn, that one in the locker gets me every time. Aside from that, it's just a lot of tunnels and maintenance rooms. We find that our matchmaker has been stalking Ethan for quite some time, having a camera set up right across from his apartment, and a slew of newspaper clippings all relating to various arrests and cases that Ethan has been a part of. Ethan also finds a mannequin belonging to an old rundown department store. Oh, yeah, I forgot. The matchmaker's MO is that he murders women and sets up their bodies in a tableau with a male mannequin with a deformed face. So that's our next lead of where to go. So we head to the department store, and arguably one of Condemned's most favorite... So we head to the department store, and arguably to one of Condemned's most famous levels. If you've heard almost nothing about this game, you've probably heard of the level with all the mannequins and the enemies that pretend to be the mannequins. And you've probably heard of it for good reason. It's a great level. It's definitely one of the better levels Condemned has to offer. We stumble through the department store, whacking dudes, whacking mannequins, whacking dudes dressed as mannequins. Although it does kind of lose its edge because all the normal mannequins are missing an arm and have a pole attached to them at the base, and it just kind of leaves the enemies to stand out like a sore thumb. And even when you do hit them, they don't really run at you. They just kind of do like a sexy man fashion cat show walk kind of thing at you. Either way. So we finally hunt down our guy, only to find that the guy we're looking for wasn't the guy we were looking for. So the guy who threw Ethan out the window and murdered the two detectives wasn't the matchmaker. It turns out he was a different serial killer, whose MO is to murder other serial killers using their own methods. After discovering this, Rosa dubs this new, technically old, but this other serial killer X, or SKX. Now, is that stupid? Yeah, kinda, but it doesn't really matter. So far, the game has been absolutely killing it. The atmosphere is great, the combat is fun, it's been a good time. So as long as the story doesn't get wildly stupider in the next couple of hours, we'll be just fine. Okay, so we're about halfway through the game, and I'm gonna cut for spoilers. If you don't want this almost 2005, no, it can't be 20 years. That can't be right. I remember when this game came and can't be that. No. So, with the matchmaker dead, that leaves the trail for SKX pretty cold. We find that SKX's final mark was a serial killer called the Torturer, but we don't know where to look for this guy. So, we go to the library because... Oh, yeah. So we know the identity of the torturer because his old gym teacher snitched to the cops, and now that gym teacher has gone missing. So we have to go to the library to find out what school this guy went to find him and the gym teacher. And Rosa has some stuff to tell us as well. So we get to the library and we stumble across another one of those red flags. So Rosa, along with an upgrade for her taser, which makes it lethal and is fucking sick, but that doesn't make up for what she's about to tell us. She brings Ethan's FBI file, which brings the game's writing to a crossroads. There is a path where the game can remain a fairly competent, gritty action horror thriller game based reasonably enough in reality. Or there is another path, an infinitely dumber path. A much, much more questionable path, and that's the path they inevitably end up taking. So, Rosa brings Ethan his FBI file, only to find out that most of what is there is blacked out and designated to the highest of security clearances. We discover that not only does Ethan have considerably denser bone mass than the normal person, but also an overactive serotonergic system. whatever that means, but also an x-ray of his chest with the vocal cords redacted for some reason. Okay, so for all this to make sense, I'm going to have to talk about Condemned's planned extended universe. So the goal was to create a universe spanning multiple mediums and, able to tell a variety of different stories, with the gritty crime thriller that is Criminal Origins just being one of these stories. And that's fine. That's a neat idea. But another plan for this universe was a movie, originally penned as Species X, but later renamed to Unforgettable. This movie would tell the story of a police officer hunting down a serial killer, only later to discover that the killer in question was connected to other unsolved killings. The police officer would also discover that he has supernatural powers and is not entirely human, but an alien, and would be dragged into an intergalactic war between two races with humanity caught in the middle. Did you hear that sound? That was the sound of me getting up and walking away from my computer, because every time I read that, I'm absolutely fucking dumbstruck. This game, where the only thing we've done so far is investigate murders and club the homeless, was planned to be tied to an alien-human hybrid cop with superpowers getting caught in an intergalactic war. There is no bit here. There is no fucking joke. I don't need to write a fucking joke after that. What? Holy corporate meddling, Batman. What the fuck were they thinking? Like, what? What the absolute fuck? Editor's note, I don't actually know if this had anything to do with publisher meddling. This just seems like a shitty thing that a publisher would do. And they actually tried to do it! Why? Why? Ugh. This schlubby asshole was going to be an alien with superpowers fighting other aliens. This average ass looking FBI guy. Wait a minute. It was right in front of our faces the whole time. God, it hurts. What hurts even more is that there are only 2 points. 2 easily removed points in this game's story where this subplot is even close to being talked about. Criminal Origins has just been doing such a good job. Such a good job so far. Why couldn't you just let a hat be a hat? Why are you trying to put all this crazy shit on your head and call it a hat? Okay, I'm done. I'm over it. Okay, where were we? Library. So Ethan and Rosa make their way to the library, which is a really cool level. You're fighting these creepy, skittery dudes in these tight shelf corridors, and they burst through the books and grab at you. The library itself, half of it is like burned down and broken up, and it's a good time. Books! I don't know what that bit is supposed to be. I don't remember why I just wrote books in big, bold quotation marks in the middle of whatever. That being said, there is a downright confusing, dare I say, unhinged scene coming up. So, you and Rosa are at a computer to get the information you need about this guy. And Ethan sits down at the computer, and Rosa, who is basically in arm's reach, is just gone. Not only is she gone, but she has been dragged off by serial killer X to like the other side of the fucking library. You know what? I'll just play you the entire scene verbatim.
It's a search engine specific to the library. Just type in the torturer's name, and we should get the latest info from the local news, including broadcast feeds. Damn it. Can anything else go wrong? We'll have to find the server room and get the network back.
You sit down and boom, she's fucking gonzo. Like, she's basically in your peripheral vision the entire time. But apparently this SKX dude just walks up and drags off a grown-ass woman who's not 10 feet from you. What did he do, throw a sack over her head and carry her off like a cartoon character? You could have come up with anything, any excuse to split these two up, to just get separated for a moment. But no, it's like she has to be in the same room and then she's gone. You know what? That's the least of the story's problems at this point. So we find out what school the bad man went to. Get Rosa, get out of the library. It's around this time, well, it happens a bit in the library too, where we start getting these cutscenes showing this thing. Some edgy Clive Barker looking ass demon with nightmare braces and Cali sticks. I'm still not sure what this thing is, or if we ever really get an actual explanation. We'll talk about it more later, but our main quarry is through the school. And we got this foul looking lunch lady and all these wrapped up gangly boys. I also wanted to point out, at this point in the game, you start getting these, like, Marcus Phoenix looking ass homies popping up. And it's just weird because these guys, like, in my eyes, they stand out so much more than the other enemies you fought. Like, this guy just kind of looks like a homeless dude. Like, he doesn't even seem particularly disheveled or deranged. Like, compare him to this motherfucker. This motherfucker looks like the Scrake from Killing Floor 2. This motherfucker cannot be trusted. He looks like he wants to hurt me. Or these horrifying looking nightmare women. These fuckers are getting bonked regardless of the situation. This dude just looks kind of normal. Like, this dude could be like a Gears character or something. Either way. We find our gym teacher, but he's dead. But not actually dead. But no, now he's actually dead. We do some investigating and find traces of weed killer compound used on apples, and that leads us to an apple orchard where SKX has dragged the torturer off to. This level is just fantastic. This level is just dripping with atmosphere. It makes use of the investigation tools in a more creative way than any other level up to this point. It forces the player to choose between having their investigation tools out or their weapon and their flashlight, and certain places they can be attacked at any time. It's the most claustrophobic of the levels, and just overall it nails everything that Condemned has done so right up to this point. This level feels like what you would show if you really wanted to sell this game. Like, as proof of concept, this level is pure Condemned. It is everything that this game excels at, doing the best it's done so far. We start off by using our blacklight to follow these 4 separate strands of scribbles that lead us to pieces of a riddle. We solve the riddle to find SKX's lair, have an absolute battle royale with the homeless sieging the building, and finish it off with probably the most unique fight this game has to offer. This right here would have been a perfect place to end the game. It's such a fitting end to the chase that this entire game has been. Just you and the guy, the big bad, the number one fucker, Serial Killer X, chasing each other down around this downright spooky fucking house, whacking each other with fire pokers. It feels so personal, so scrappy, so real. It doesn't look cool or flashy or choreographed. It's just two big, schlubby dudes whacking each other off. I understand that with the gameplay as simple as Condemned, it's probably really hard to find a unique way to spruce up these fights, but I think this fight just does that. It's you and SKX just chasing each other around the top floor of this house. No stun gun, no QTE, no fancy gimmick, just a cat and mouse game between the player and the big bad. It's fitting. It's not like, some generic fight where a boss just spawns low-level grunts and you fight until he comes down and then you clock him a few times and then you rinse and repeat and you do that until you kill him with a QTE. That would be bullshit. So Ethan is about to finish off SKX when who else but that crusty old man that's been following us shows up and knocks Ethan out. It turns out SKX's real name is Leland Van Horn, and this is this man's nephew. This plan to reason with Leland immediately backfires and he gets knocked the fuck. Ethan wakes up chained in a barn, being taunted by SKX. SKX cuts off Ethan's finger. Malcolm tackles SKX and tells Ethan to go kill it before it's too late, and that he has to stop this. And this just brings up another question I have. Can other people see this thing? I was under the assumption that the Cali stick demon was more of like a metaphorical hallucination thing, not like an actual demon, like a hallucinogenic manifestation of whatever the fuck has been driving everybody so crazy. It's not like an actual... Come on, we can't have aliens and demons in the same crime thriller. That would be stupid. Jesus Christ. This level just feels like filler. I mean, visually it looks really cool. It's all dark and you're walking around and the only real light source you have is these torches in the ground and the burning 2x4 you probably have as a weapon. And visually it's nice, but it's we already had a really good final level. It's why this just feels like filler. I don't need this. You could have ended the game 5 minutes ago. It would have been great. Either way, we walk through here and we fight these weird Innsmouth-looking motherfuckers. Occasionally the Cali stick demon shows up and we bonk him and he runs away. You get to a barn and remember what I said before? Some generic fight where a boss just spawns low-level grunts and you fight until he comes down and then you clock him a few times and then you rinse and repeat and you do that until you kill him with a QTE. That would be bullshit. That would be bullshit.
That would be bullshit.
Awful. Just awful. This guy isn't even a good fight. I had him stun-locked so much, I wasn't even sure the fight was over because homie couldn't enter his stunned animation so I could QTE his ass. Ugh. So, with the Cali stick demon dead, Ethan and Malcolm are driving home, which, just has to be one awkward fucking car ride. You have to imagine Ethan is just stewing about the fact that he would still have 10 digits if it weren't for fucking old Van Houten over here. It turns out Malcolm stuffed SKX in the trunk of the car. There's a Mexican standoff. You get to choose to shoot SKX or let him live, but your choice doesn't matter, because if you don't, he just... Now we have the final cutscene. This is the point of no return. There has been some weird shit up to this point, but goddamn, we can just ignore all of that. We can chalk everything up to just nonsensical, spooky horror logic. We can stay in gritty crime thriller horror universe. We can stay here and it'll be great. We don't need to mention the other stuff. We can take the game's biggest strengths and play off of those. The game might be trying to wear a lot of hats, but we can take the best, most fitting hat and cast all the rest away. But we don't do that. Rosa meets Ethan at a coffee shop. They talk for a bit about what Ethan is planning to do after the whole SKX ordeal. Ethan asks Rosa if he can trust her, to which she writes on a napkin that she's bugged. The last quiet affirmation that this game is going to make, that it is not going to wear the best, most fitting hat it has, but instead is going to wear the alien conspiracy hat. God damn it. The gameplay of Condemned is slow, limited, but immensely satisfying. Throughout the game, you're going to walk from place to place, or power walk, since I refuse to call this a sprint. Investigate various hotspots with Ethan's magic bag of forensic tools, and whack stuff. Mostly dudes. Almost every aspect of Condemned's gameplay feels underbaked. The movement is extremely slow, and even simple actions like crouching or being restricted to context-based button presses. There's no jumping, dodging, or any type of advanced movement, and what has to be the most ineffectual sprint button I may have ever seen in a game. Ethan just really is out here moving at the speed of government. The actual investigation gameplay is also in a similar camp. You get a prompt to push a button. When you're near a piece of evidence, you push the button. Ethan always chooses the right tool for the job, and you rinse and repeat until you can move on, really. It's neat to see all the little tools he has, but you don't really get a choice in what he uses. Like, there's no actual input from you other than lining things up and clicking the button. Ethan will always choose the right tool for the job, and that's about it. There's very little in terms of actual player agency. And, you know, if you've listened this far, and you'd be fair to say, gee, all this sounds kind of terrible, why is this one of your favorite games? Well, you'd be right to say that. So far, Condemned's gameplay doesn't sound very good at all. But all that changes when we get to the game's combat. Because Condemned's combat is absolutely fucking brutal. Everything about the combat just works so damn well. The weapons, the sounds, the impacts, they all just work. The game's lumbering slowness actually works in its favor, making every impact feel meaty and devastating. The feedback you get when a weapon makes contact, with enemies reeling and spinning, and teeth just launching out of these poor bastards like a ghoulish piñata. The absolute chaos of some of these fights, with enemies infighting and the frantic swinging and blocking, is just awesome. None of these fights feel like they have any choreography or any rhyme or rhythm to them. It's like none of these dudes, Ethan included, have really any skill or tact in what they're doing. It's just a never-ending horde of exceptionally angry gentlemen beating the absolute stuffing out of each other with anything they can get their hands on, from pipes to 2x4s to paper slicers and desk drawers. While bare bones it may be, it leaves Condemned's combat feeling distinct and memorable. It feels not so much like just having fights, but straight up survival. Like you are just out here fighting for your life against these unhinged individuals. Of course, there is a little more than just swinging to the combat. Ethan has a stun gun at his disposal that can, well, stun enemies, allowing him to take the weapons right out of their hand. This later gets an upgrade where it can straight up fry weaker enemies. There's also a kick, while looking hilarious, can create some much needed space between Ethan and his attackers. There are 4 execution moves Ethan can use as well. If a stunned enemy is approached, you can choose one of 4 moves: a headbutt, a punch, a slam, and a neck snap. They don't really do anything other than add a little bit of contextual flavor, I suppose. I mean, you can just walk up and whack the guy instead. There are also a few firearms that Ethan can use, but these are far from being the star of the show. When it comes to guns, you can't pick up any ammo, so once your magazine is dry, the only thing your gun is good for is bonking. Which is fine, since guns aren't really the reason anyone is here or should be here. One thing I do like about the gunplay is that there's no ammo display on the screen. You can press a button to have Ethan check how many rounds he's got left, but that's it. It's a nice touch. I think it does a good job complementing the game's already Spartan heads-up display. The story may be iffy, the gameplay may be bare bones, but god damn does Condemned nail the presentation. The game sounds great. Whether it's using silence to build tension or hearing tweakers skittering around through walls. People incoherently yelling on different floors. The semi-coherent mutterings and yellings of enemies is also fantastically done. These dudes sound just as angry and unhinged as they look. I can't really think of another game that conveys the feeling that these fuckers just want you dead. They want you dead just through the way they sound alone. It does a fantastic job. The voice acting is also done pretty well. Most of who you're gonna hear is Ethan and Rosa. Ethan is played by TV actor Greg Grunberg. I don't really watch TV, so I can't speak much to his work, but I think he does a very good job at playing Ethan. He sounds like you would expect. Tired, frustrated, confused. He doesn't sound overly gruff or badass or have any one-liners or jokes. He definitely has an overall professional under stress kind of energy, which I really appreciate. It just makes him all the more relatable.
Look, I did not snap. Someone else killed those policemen. It looks like it might have been the matchmaker.
With your gun? That seems unlikely, doesn't it? We have psychiatric staff that can help you sort things out.
With all due respect, I don't need a shrink.
Okay, so I might be a little biased here, but I love how this game looks. Games like Condemned, Fear, Doom 3, The Darkness, Escape from Butcher Bay, they all have this certain look to them, and it's a look that I fucking love. I'm not a good enough writer to completely explain my feelings, or even the history of what this look is, but I feel like I want to say between 2004 and 2009, FPS games were going really hard on the good dynamic lighting. There was this sweet spot when your game has, kind of muddy, kind of matte looking textures, but absolutely kick-ass lighting, bold dynamic shadows, and just really, really good looking stuff. I will take good lighting over good texture work any day of the week, and I'm sorry if you disagree. You're just wrong. You're just wrong, and probably a... Okay, stay on track. Condemned is one of those games in that sweet spot. The game is just dripping with atmosphere. As stated before, Condemned has you wandering around a lot of low-income housing environments, and those environments look good. Well, not good, but good. Wow, this place looks absolutely destitute. I would never in my life want to be in a place like this, but it looks great. You can definitely tell that a lot of work went into crafting the environments. They look great, they fit thematically, and a lot of the time they feel like a real environment. The way they're laid out feels like they're modeled off of real places that were supposed to be actual places. None of them have that uncanny, this is a video game level, not a real place kind of feel. Now, while the environments and the lighting look great, the character models are a little different. Everybody in Condemned is very wide. That's not to say the models look bad. They're just kind of strange. They all kind of move and walk around like they have back problems. And why do they run like that? I also think they missed their chance to add some armored up homeless people to the character models. Like just dudes walking around with garbage cans and lids and locker doors duct taped to them like some sort of PCP Power Ranger. It sounds stupid, but I could see folks doing that sort of thing, especially considering the circumstances. Is Condemned flawed? Yes. Does it try to take its story to some downright unhinged places? Yes. Does its gameplay lack overall things to do and player agency? Yes. Does that stop me from loving it? No. Do I have a reverence for older games because they were better, or can I just not healthily cope with the fact that time keeps passing and there's nothing I can do to stop it? Oh god. Despite Condemned's glaring flaws, I've always had a soft spot for it. It's a fleeting, edgy glimpse at what could have been if the people making it were just been allowed to cook. Maybe not the most creative idea, but one that had a lot of thought put into its execution. And it shows, because what Condemned gets right, it gets really right. It's a fantastic example for atmosphere and tension. I love Monolith, but I don't like how they're treated. These people made Fear, blood, for fuck's sakes. They don't deserve to be working in the Warner Brothers mines. Although, I suppose there are worse fates for developers. I don't mind their Middle-earth games, but it doesn't feel like they're working at their best potential making them. Like, if someone would just let Monolith cook and let them work out their own IPs, I feel like we could get some really, really interesting stuff. At least I can look forward to Butcher's Creek. I don't think David's ever released a bad game. Or, I mean, a game I haven't liked at least. Wait, Monolith published Mabus?
We have lost contact with the robot. We know you did your best, but it wasn't enough.
There's one last thing I want to bring up. I didn't even think about this until I'd almost finalized the script. But there's, within Criminal Origins, you get these blurbs, these little like files, and they solely exist on the loading screens for the beginning of levels. And they give you all these little updates happening, taking place in the world. Like they talk about the strange phenomenon that's killing birds, and how the places with the highest bird fatalities also have the largest upticks in crime. How these massive crime waves and violence are like building beyond Metro City, and the authorities don't know what to do about them, and like the people are questioning if it's going to become a national problem, and like national authorities are being called in, and it's all really cool world building, but it's just pushed off to like these loading screen blurbs that like half the time you're not even gonna read, because it's just like you could have put that in the game somewhere and just like had a character talk about it, or had something. You spent so much time building a neat world and a neat premise. Like, show us that in the game. Like, give us like newspaper clippings or like answering machines, like in Fear or something. Like, I mean, what do we got to collect now? We got metal pieces and dead birds. They don't really give us anything. This probably isn't going to be the last time I talk about Monolith. But that's all I'm going to talk about them today. If you haven't played Condemned and you want an atmospheric first-person brawler, yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's usually pretty cheap. It's not very long. This game, I think this playthrough only lasted me about 4.5, maybe 5 hours, and I was kind of taking my time with it. But yeah, Condemned, Condemned has a comfortable place on the list of my favorite games. It's a flawed game, and it's a game with so much untapped potential, but it's still just what it does right. It does so right, and I'm at a loss to think of other games that do the things that Condemned does as right as Condemned does it. That was messy as fuck. The game is good. You can tell me what you think about Condemned in the comments. Either way, that's all I have today. Leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and until next time, stay safe and take care of yourself.